I learned lots of things during my preliminary task. One of the things that the preliminary task did for me was firm up my knowledge of camera shots and angles. Obviously I already knew about them, but by putting them into practice I really learnt the impact that they can have on a piece. Here you can see one of the fairly close-up shots of the character. It's one of my favourite shots from the preliminary task because it really shows what she feels towards the other character. So I decided that I'd try and recreate this sense of emotion being portrayed from the close-up in my full product. As you can see here, this is my character Katie, and she's looking fairly sad and angry, and I thought that by doing a close-up this was shown clearly, as you can clearly see her emotions, and it allows the audience to sort of relate to the character a bit more as well. In my preliminary task I decided to include a point of view shot. Here you can see the point of view shot on screen. I decided to use it when the character was going down the stairs, and I think that this is effective because it gave the audience a sense of knowing the character and being the character as they see things as she sees them, and it allows them to identify with her emotions more. However, there are several problems with this shot, and obviously the main one is that you can see the camera and tripod in the corner of the screen. However, I still decided to use a point of view shot in my opening sequence. Here you can see the point of view shot on screen. I was very careful not to leave any of my equipment lying about, and I think that this gives it a much more professional finish. There were several aspects of mise en scène which I had to think about in the preliminary task and in the opening sequence. One of the ones I didn't cover very well in the preliminary task was the lighting. I tried to do this better in the opening sequence than I did on the preliminary task, because here you can see that it's so dark that you can't really see the character's face. But I was pleased with how the costumes and props were used in the preliminary task and the opening sequence, so it gave me an understanding of the importance of that. Looking back now on my preliminary task, I can see that there were several errors. One of the errors that I've noticed is that there are two people in the background of this shot. We did notice this at the time, and when we did audience feedback from our peer group, they picked up on it as well. We would have refilmed it if we could have done, but the actress was not available, so sadly we couldn't reshoot it again, but I made sure that there were no errors like this in the opening sequence. Another thing that I learnt from the preliminary task was the importance of good actresses and actors. We hadn't originally planned to have this actress in our preliminary task, however the person we had planned to use had gone home ill, so we couldn't use her, so we had to find a replacement. Lauren, who played the main role in the preliminary task, was very good, although she did look at the camera several times, which slightly degraded the professional side of the opening sequence. Here you can see that I've tried to use match on action in the preliminary task. We used this on the walking scene as she was going away. I think that we did this effectively. We used a wide range of different shot types which helped to establish the character as well as the location. We also tried to do this in the opening sequence, and I think that this worked fairly effectively. Here you can see examples of where I've used match on action in the opening sequence. I did it in the similar way as I did for the preliminary task. I showed the character Katie walking away, and I think this was an effective way to demonstrate match on action, as it clearly shows continuity, and I think that I did this effectively. I don't think there were any continuity errors, and this was definitely a skill I learnt from the preliminary task because I'd never really done match on action. Another thing that I learnt from the preliminary task was the importance of the 180-degree rule. I used the 180-degree rule in the preliminary task, and on screen you can see an example of where I've used it. I tried to keep the characters to their set size, and then I swapped over size to show me breaking the continuity rule to show that I fully understood it. I would have used the 180-degree rule in my opening sequence had I have had two characters, but as I only had one character it wasn't fully appropriate.